What's up, everybody? My name is Adam Palmer. This is Daily Nonsense. On today's show, we're going to be talking about a new partnership that PSA and the MLB Players Association are doing. Also, some top 5 quarterbacks that are being bought right now on Check Out My Cards. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button. If you are a new viewer, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any future Daily Nonsense content. Let's get into it. The MLB Players Association and PSA have announced they are coming out with a product, sort of. There's going to be a bunch of cards that were opened by MLB players, and they're going to be graded by PSA. And I guess from what I've seen, they're going to be available to buy at the end of the month. There's going to be an auction that's going to be on September 30th, where you can buy some of these cards. And I know a lot of people were talking about a conflict of interest where PSA was facilitating some of the purchases of certain cards when they were being graded. I talked about this probably a couple weeks ago where PSA was offering people their money based on their grades 24 hours after the grades were populated. And I know the people were screaming conflict of interest. And I think one of the things about this is that I don't think PSA would do anything nefarious here. I'm sure there's no regulations, like legal regulations, that they have to abide by. But again, if there was anything that was going on that was not above board, the industry would call it out right away. At least I would imagine they would. I don't know. Based on seeing what people comment on and seeing what people say on social media, I just don't see how they would go about. They would just let that go. So the one thing I do find interesting about these cards is that they are just random products from what I've seen in the videos. There are specific, probably Topps baseball products, but they are essentially opening the products, getting them graded by PSA and selling them. The video is from spring training. So this is a fairly old video that at least is from, if you go to, I believe it's the MLB Players Association website, they had like a blog that they put up. There's a video of them opening the cards. And I think that's another thing that's going to be added to this is like each PSA certification number is going to come with a video of the player opening up the cards. And the point that I want to get to about the conflict of interest that I can see how people would say that is like, if they are the ones making the cards, they're the ones doing the auction. We are just at a point in sports cards where every company wants to do everything. And that's exactly what PSA is doing here. They are, putting together this auction. They're grading the cards. They're selling the cards. They're getting the players together. And I think it's a good thing that players are getting more involved in cards just in general. And I know that people are going to say in the comments, players have always been involved in cards. But it's like, I think to a point where we have seen players put baseball cards into their like back pockets and then get them graded. Like they're doing things that we have not seen before in the industry. And they are, I guess innovative. It's innovative that they are opening these cards and they're going to be selling them like player open cards. I think it's a really cool idea. Based on what people are talking about, also, this is the first time that they're doing it, but it's not like the only time they're going to be doing it. Apparently, there was like a bunch of cards that got graded, and the initial drop, I guess, is what they call in the industry when you're doing something exclusive like this, is the initial set is going to be 60 cards. This probably will drive extra interest towards these cards because they're player pulled. So it's, we've seen the player worn, we've seen all of these things with cards. And especially now that, like I said earlier, we talked about the cards being in players' pockets. So then they get authenticated. And I think that's a really cool idea. We also saw, I think Trout did something with some of his cards with the Ohtani. There was like a thing where PSA worked with Trout and Ohtani on the World Baseball Classic cards. So again, we're seeing more players get involved in cards just in general. And, we've seen also like Bobby Witt and other players get involved in the grading of cards as well. So I think we're going to continue to see that. And I hope that PSA continues to make cool stuff. And so far, I think that they've done a pretty good job with some of those things that they've tried to do and integrate players more into the industry just in general. Friend of the channel, Chris Sewell, put out a video on his YouTube channel talking about some of the horror stories that he's had when getting some of the collections sent to him. I think that's kind of some of the stuff that he does. He likes getting collections sent and then will offer the price and stuff along those lines. It's pretty cool. But he put up a pretty crazy story actually on his YouTube channel. So definitely go check that out if you follow his channel or if you've seen him on any of the channels here on Sports Card Professor. He's been kind of doing the rounds on YouTube, and he put out a really interesting video about some of the issues that he had with one of the collections that got sent. Yesterday, we talked about some of the injuries in the NFL, mainly Joe Burrow. And now we are going to talk about check out my cards top 5 list after week 2, I guess, or maybe it was after week 1, technically, within their top 5 list of NFL players. Number 5 is Patrick Mahomes. Number 4 is Jordan Love. Number 3 is Trevor Lawrence. Number 2 is JJ McCarthy. I think this was probably before he got hurt in week 2. And then number 1 is the one and only Mac Jones. And that is surprising to me, I guess. Or actually, it's surprising, but not at the same time, because the industry is so constantly chasing. They are chasing the next opportunity. And is there going to be an opportunity to buy and sell Mac Jones? Sure, if you're doing it all within like a month span of when Brock Purdy comes back. And JJ McCarthy, people were buying a ton of his cards before he gets hurt. That's obviously not great. People believe in Jordan Love. Patrick Mahomes is still on that list. And then after Trevor Lawrence's week 1, people believe in him again. I mean, there is a cycle where people who are buying football cards are pretty much just like chasing the next player. They're chasing the next opportunity to buy a card for cheap and then sell it for more, which granted, if you're a Mac Jones, that could just be that you have those Mac Jones cards for forever and people had them listed pretty cheaply and then people go and buy them. That's one of the things on ComC that I think you're going to find pretty frequently is like people will have a ton of cards in their portfolio and sometimes they won't have the opportunity to go and update them like when there is that Brock Purdy injury. So there is a chance that you're going to find cheap cards if you really want Mac Jones cards. There's probably a chance if you really want one of these random backups, there's a decent shot that you're going to be able to buy some of those cards if people just don't have the opportunity to get their portfolios updated in time. Sniping is that's a way that people call it. Sniping cards, I think, is a term that people use, similar to like when a listing is ending on eBay, which I know that eBay changed their policy, but that was one of the things people would do on eBay was they would wait till the last second of a listing and then they put their bid in. That was called a snipe. People are kind of sniping cards here where they are buying cards before people have the chance to update their portfolio. And I probably wouldn't be buying Mac Jones cards if I'm going to be honest. I would probably be staying far away from Mac Jones, I think, unless you are selling them right now. Like if you bought them or you had them before, this is like your last opportunity to sell them. Brock Purdy will eventually come back, and sure, if he gets back and he plays well, that could be bad for Mac Jones. But if he doesn't play well, maybe Mac Jones plays well. Maybe there's a little bit of a quarterback controversy there. But like if you own Mac Jones, this is maybe one of your last opportunities to sell them, because if he does play well in the next couple weeks, you're going to see them going up. I unfortunately had to pick him up in fantasy in the 2 quarterback sports card nonsense league. So that's not ideal that I had to pick him up there. But either way, if you have those Mac Jones cards, you could probably sell them now. If not, then you're going to be holding them probably forever. The person that bought that $100,000 one-of-one Prism card, so many years ago is probably trying to unload that card now for whatever they can get, because it's definitely not $100,000. I would be surprised if it's a couple $100s now at this point. But it's just this thing that within sports cards that happens is when there is an opportunity to sell, you kind of have to take it, especially with a player like Mac Jones, who this may be his last opportunity. But like with other players, I've found that taking profit is more important than holding on to cards for a little bit too long. Also, it gives someone else an opportunity to sell that card for more. In theory, maybe it's sports card karma potentially. But like if you have cards, taking profit is always a good idea. That's all we've got for today's show. Make sure you leave a comment. Let us know what you thought about today's topics. Also, come back here to the Sports Card Nonsense YouTube channel every day for daily nonsense. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.